Byrd. Welcome to the last page with DMoss, where we bring you real conversations with visionary leaders, thinkers, and creators who are reshaping what's possible. Today's guest is a man of many dimensions. He's a strategist, a minister, entrepreneur, author, coach, and musician. He helps people fix what's broken in their lives, their businesses, and their leaderships. He's the founder of J. Richard Byrd and Company and the author of several books, including Birdology. J. Richard Byrd, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, sir.
What's up, sir? I'm gonna act like you didn't use my full government name at the beginning of this broadcast.
Oh, did I? Hey. So I like to dive right in on my interview. So I'm gonna dive right in. Who exactly is J. Richard Byrd? And I know
Um,
you get asked that a lot. So who is J. Richard Byrd, your whole government, and what is it that you actually do?
that is probably the question I get asked the most, and the question I hate answering the most, all at one time. Um, I am a serial entrepreneur. I am an owner of a portfolio of different businesses. I live in a couple of different spaces from an entrepreneurial point of view. I started my first company in seventh grade, and now I'm 53. So I've been doing this for a very long time. This is about the only thing I know how to do is to build businesses and make money. When you look at what is a business, there's usually three or four different levers that you pull for a business. So it doesn't make a difference to me whether that is something that is in cosmetics or in t-shirts or apparel or in coaching or strategy. If I can find out the pain and the pressure that a person is having, and if I can find something how to fulfill that pain or pressure, how to erase it, then and a place to get paid, then I can create a business in that space. So that's basically who I am.
Okay, so you believe if there's a market, if there's a niche, if there's an audience, you can build a business around it.
That's it. But that's kind of at the end. The first thing starts with, is there a pain or pressure, or perceived pain or pressure, and then sometimes you add in pleasure. If I can find those two first, if I find that first, like what is hurting you, what is the problem we're trying to solve, and then you find, is there a market or audience for that, and you can niche that down, or you can make it as broad as possible. But if you can't find the pain or the pressure, if you can't solve that, you can't make money.
Okay, I think I got it. Just give it to me one more time. I want to make sure everybody in the back of the room completely understands what you're saying here when you say the pain and the pressure.
Okay, so the pain and the pressure is, what problem are you trying to solve? And we add pleasure in that, but it's usually more expensive to sell pleasure. Um, Even when you look at something as uh, OnlyFans as a platform solves a pain and a pressure, which was, how do you reach creators and allow them to reach their audience without having a quote unquote middleman? That was a pain and pressure that OnlyFans as a platform did. OnlyFans as a service on how creators are using it, again, their pain and pressure is, how do I reach my audience the fastest? And many people would think that it's moved into the adult space a lot, but at the end of the day, that pleasure piece of that is solving some kind of pain and pressure for the consumer or the customer. I go there because I need whatever, and so most people would say that it's a pleasure, but it's usually a pain. I feel lonely, I feel depressed, I feel this. There's a pain and there's a pressure associated with that. And when it comes down to, how do you make money out of anything, the further the pain and the pressure from the solution, the more money you make. And check this out. I always use this as an example. When you have a toothache and go to the dentist, you don't ask the dentist how much it costs. All you want to know is, how do I solve this pain and the pressure?
True.
And so most of your doctors and your dentist offices and your lawyers, they look at the pain and the pressure that they're solving, and they charge you according to that. And any really good consultant um, is going to charge you that way. So if I come into and I solve your pain and pressure, and you make $250,000 off of this, me solving that problem, I have no problems asking you for 25,000. I actually saved you. I made you money. So that, that's just my core. My
I
core. If I
got
can,
it. Pain and pressure. I got it. You find out what their pain is, where their pressure's at, and find out if I can create a product or a service to help them relieve it.
yeah, a lot of people have a lot of good ideas. It's funny that we jump like straight into stuff. A lot of people have a lot of good ideas, but don't
Hmm.
have a problem that they're solving, and so
Okay.
they find it hard trying to find a market. Now, I said pain and pressure, but there's also perceived pain and pressure, meaning I don't even know that I have this pain or pressure. Then you have someone like a Steve Jobs that walks up to you and tells you, "We're going to put all of your music into this little device and sell it to you." Well, I didn't even know that there was a pain that I was trying to carry my little cassette tapes along with me. You created a pain and pressure that I didn't even know I have, and now I can't live without my electronic device. And every time they put something in that, they create this need. That I was reading a story earlier. I don't know how true it was, but of three teenage young ladies who tried to kill their mother because she turned off the Wi-Fi. That who would have thought 15, 20 years that the Wi-Fi or that connectivity would be solving whatever issues that have to a point where people are willing to kill when they don't have it.
Right.
So
Okay. Well, let me move back up to my regularly scheduled line of questioning. Um, in your bio, in past conversations with you, you oftentimes describe yourselves as someone who fixes things. Like, what kind of things are we talking about when you say, I'm a fixer? My job is to come in, fix it.
you know I came up with that title because, again, one of the hardest things to try to explain people in the course of the day, like, what do you do? And people really like to try to niche you or put you in a box and say, so you are a musician, so all you can do is do musician stuff, or you are a business person, all you can do is these small things. But we are actually living in an era when the knowledge base is the actual product. So the actual product I really sell is my knowledge and how I'm able to go into someone's business, find the issue that they have, find the pain and pressure that they're having in their business, and figure out how to unclog the pipes. You know, the plumber of business didn't sound as sexy as fixer.
Hmm.
So, but that it literally is the same thing. Most businesses, relationships, nonprofits, ministries usually are in some sort of change or transition. They're at this level and they want to go to this level. My job is to figure out what is that gap in between. How do we fix it? How do we create the systems for it? How do we create the logistics for it? And how do we basically just move you? And so uh, I do a lot of that. I also do a lot of fixing when it comes time for um, crisis management. I catch a lot of people come to me when there's a big issue, uh, because I'm a clear thinker. Don't I'm not going to get emotionally involved in the fact that you said something on Facebook and now every person is mad at you. Okay, all I need to know is what are we going to say, how we're going to say it, how we're going to put it back out there, and how long I think this cycle is going to last. But that same thing, Daryl, works over in something else. Like, it may be production. I'm doing an album and there's too much mid range, there's too much treble. That's the issue. Okay, how do we fix it? What do
Okay.
we add to that? How do we move this? What do we bring on? So for me, I don't necessarily really look at the industry. It's the problem. What's the problem? How do we fix it? Is it something I can fix? Or is it someone I know that I can get on the phone and talk me through how to fix it or bring them into the deal?
Okay. You answered my question. I won't have to ask that again. Because I'm like, fixes things. Okay. But
Yeah.
that makes sense. So again, we're on with Richard Byrd. Now, Rich, your day can range from designing a website to structuring a hotel financing deal. I've always thought the whole notion of that was insane. It's just too much. I believe in being able to get my arms around something. So when I think of some of the things that you do, we can be on a phone call, pass each other in a meeting, whatever the case may be, and you're always working. So I'm trying to understand, how do you manage that level of versatility while staying?
I'm just trained. I'm trained that way. My background is working in an entertainment law firm, and I often tell people that uh, An entertainment law firm is kind of different than normal law firms because your day can go from A to Z, really. And I use this as an example. Cam Newton, who used to be the quarterback here in Charlotte, where I live, he can get a $50 million deal. He brings it to me. My job is to figure out, do we buy 25 McDonald's? Do we buy 15 Burger Kings, 6 hotels? How do we create the revenue structures for those, the business structures, and the liability uh, management in that? And so, because I'm doing that many different deals in the course of a day, your mind starts to work. And at any given time, we have 150, 200 clients. My job at the law firm was chief operating officer, but also senior vice president of business development. That means every attorney in that office that works with us in every case somehow comes across my desk. And even though I don't do that quote unquote full time, I still literally see all the emails that pass through. And I step in when I have to.
Okay.
So you learn kind of the manage stuff. Entertainment is one of those things again where you get in at 6 o'clock in the morning. You have a litigation matter you have to deal with, a closing matter you have to deal with. Now you have to walk into a different thing. You got to do 4 contracts at 1 o'clock. Then 3 o'clock you're on the car headed to New York City because at 6 o'clock you got to go see so and so perform, and then you have your really big main artist who wants to go on at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. They want to perform to 1 o'clock, then have a conversation with you to 3 a.m. in the morning. But they also, because their adrenaline is high, they want to call you back at 6 and ask you, did you start working on the project that they did? So you grow, you grow, you kind of grow with this thing of like really good strict project management. I have agile. I love that. I love the agile format of being able to handle stuff. And I also say for definitely for your listeners, David Allen's Getting Thing Done, they call it GTD.
Mhm.
It's a book I read some maybe 14, 15 years ago that totally changed my mind about how I just do projects. And his thesis is kind of this, D, that you got 3 things to do when you first see something. You either do it, delegate it, or delete it.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
so I live kind of off of that principle. I do it, I delegate it, or I delete it. And the second part of what he talks about is that your mind will keep working, your subconscious keeps working on something until you actually give it a next step. And so even when I'm looking at a project, it's not as just easy to say send email to DMoss. I have to say send email to DMoss about, and then give it a next step. That way I know it's out of my head. I'm not holding on to it. I'm not thinking about it for 3, 4, 5, 6 months trying to figure it out. Because
Mhm.
if you're a creative, when you're sleeping at night, you're not sleeping because you're literally over there thinking about the problem that you have the next day. So a lot of writing down of stuff. uh, AI right now is absolutely fantastic because it becomes my second or third brain. I dictate my projects in the morning and I let the AI put it in my GTD format, and I check off lists. I will say this: the older I get, and the more people we have working for us, the easier it is for me to let go. My friend DeShannon says this: don't build me a clock when all I want to know is the time.
Hmm.
And she tells that to her staff daily. If I ask you for the time, don't come in here telling me how it's done. I just want to know the time. And so that just operating like that again. I don't care what blue you now put on the website
Okay.
because I gave you blue. If I wanted it to be a certain number, certain hex number for the blue, I would have given that to you. All I want to do is manage the outcomes, not manage the process.
Right. Okay. Good response. Thank you. Let's talk about strategy, clarity, and high level leadership. I think that's interesting. I think that's something you definitely excel at. Your clients include CEOs, coaches, pastors, entrepreneurs, entertainers. What types of challenges are they bringing to your door? You said that you're the expert that other experts call. What's the most common clarity issue you help leaders work through? So, 2 questions. First, clients
Go ahead. I'm
that
sorry.
go ahead.
I was gonna say the biggest issue with most people who walk through my door is overwhelm.
Okay.
Um, it is when you're dealing with high net worth individuals or high potential, those people who are always working at their highest levels,
Yep.
they're usually working, I call it, on both sides of the brain. Like there's this business side that's working, but there's also this creative side. And the creative side and the business side or the logical side are fighting each other.
Okay.
And I don't know what to do because there's this fight. And literally all I do is sit down. We do a whiteboard session where we just put things on the whiteboard so they can visually see what is there and we give structure to it. I find that most people who lack clarity won't write stuff down because that becomes accountability. They don't want to be accountable to it, so they won't write it down. They keep it in their minds. And so, whiteboarding sessions, again, AI, getting stuff out of your brain onto paper, onto something else that you can now look at and visually see. That's usually a clarity problem. But most of my clients, they think in big, broad terms, but don't know the language or the system that it takes to get them to what they want to do. They literally want to walk in and say, I want to go to Mars tomorrow. I had a dream last night and we were in a spaceship and I was going to Mars. Okay, so the end goal is Mars. All right, so let's walk back 5 steps off of each thing. So to get to Mars, I know I'm going to need a spaceship. Okay, boom. So now we got to go find a spaceship. I know that I'm going to need to have an astronaut that can run the spaceship.
Hmm.
Okay, boom. So now we got to look at what the personnel looks like. So what is the process of building, of building a spaceship? I remember Steve Harvey was talking about Michael Jackson. Said Michael Jackson got giraffe money. You wouldn't even know where to go get a giraffe. And that's literally what a lot of clients are. Like they want this big thing, and you have to walk them back through the process of, we just can't go to Mercedes dealership and pick up a spaceship. That's going to take a little bit of work, a little bit of time. But I'm not going to tell you that your dream is unrealistic, because I think the bigger you dream, the bigger you think, the better processes you can put into place. I don't think anything is impossible. It may not be possible right this minute, but if you're able to write down at least what you think it's going to be, eventually the universe will get you to that space. And what wasn't, even right now, what was available to us right now in 2025, think about it, was not available in 2000.
Right.
There's literally a whole new set of things that make things easier. From my content agency that does all the social media and stuff for all of my clients and myself, even 6 years ago, cutting a video and doing all of these YouTube reels and Instagram reels and TikTok videos, the editing of that would be 4 and 5 hours and 6 hours for a 15 or 30-second video. This is stuff that I can do right now in less than 10 minutes. So, you know, that's really, it's the clarity and the strategy work hand in hand. Because if I can get you clear
Yep.
about what the end goal is, then we can write the strategy and the steps that get you there.
Gotcha. Now, you said that you're the expert that other experts call. What's the most common clarity issue you help leaders work through?
So I'm the expert that other experts call because I am, in most cases, uh, the hidden gem, for lack of better terms. I get phone calls about just about anything, and again, it's always usually clarity, or it usually is in the terms of what are the steps I need to do, such and such. I'll get a call. Hey, my client wants their website video to jump off the page and do a somersault. Okay, well, I happen to see something the other day where that technology is available, or that technology is not available, but we can do this A, B, and C. Now take that back to your client and send me a check. Most most of the people who come, that really what it is. It's I think the real answer to that is my job is to be a sounding board. Like if we can just sit down and talk it through
Okay.
and get you to agree to one or two or three good deliverables, then you have clarity. The clarity happens when you um, So I'm in Charlotte, and we're having this huge pollen happening right now. Pollen is all over the place. My whole driveway is covered in yellow dust, and I don't know where the driveway is because of the yellow dust. But as soon as I turn on the hose and hose off, I
Mm,
now have full clarity of the ground I can stand on.
right.
And that literally is what strategy is, whether it is another expert who has 15 clients or is the client himself walking up to you. Can we walk through your pollen to find the firm foundation of what you're trying to do and how you're trying to grow? If we can do that, then we make money.
Okay. So you also make it clear that your work isn't for hobbyists. This isn't an occupation to play with, and that you train officers. Can you explain what that means and how that mindset affects the results you help people achieve?
There are followers,
Mm-hmm.
there are leaders, there are people who do, then there are people who think, there are visuals, there are visionaries. I don't necessarily need to talk to your frontline people. I need to talk to a decision maker.
Mm,
And when you are dealing with, again, 30, 40, 50 projects a day, like when we mentioned it before, but like, I got a huge case coming up. I need to fly to Atlanta, be there in the morning, by the afternoon, do an event, by the evening, launch a new product. I don't have a lot of time to pick and talk with people about what button to push. The other part of that is there's a lot of I give away a lot of free information. Like I'm an open book in most cases, but I don't want to just be an open book to people who are not going to take action.
mm,
The reason I give it to you and the reason I'm planting these seeds is so that it is on good ground. And if you're the kind of person that just wants to get the seed and you ain't got no moist soil for this seed to grow and bring back a harvest, then I can't really deal with you because you're going to waste my time. You're going to waste your time. And more importantly, there was someone else that needed what I had to offer that can't get in the room because you want to come kick tires. That's not to say that you can't call me and ask me a quick question, but it really means that what I look for, the payment I'm looking for is action. And those people who are talkers and not doers, I can't, listen, whew, you see me trying to cuss and nothing else like that, but you like my head cannot literally wrap around that. So I tend to talk to officers because officers are used to one making decisions. They're used to making decisions. They're used to being able to say to other people, I want X done, and it's done. You really want to get on my good side? Let's have a conversation on Thursday, and then Friday you're calling me back telling me how you're executing on what we talked about. You can call me back on Saturday. I'm only going to charge you half price. Look, but because like that is what I live for. I live for leaving legacy.
okay.
I live for being able to push people to whatever their next level is. And nothing is more disheartening, depressing, and debilitating than to know that you've spent 5 years working with someone and they're still in the same place. So uh, I've learned how to just say you're not a good fit because you're not going to make a move.
Okay. All right. Let me move over to faith, business, and balance. You're both a minister and an entrepreneur, two demanding roles. How do you hold space for the two of those?
It took a lot of time.
Okay. Talk
It
about it.
took it took and as long as I've been in business is probably as long as I've been doing ministry in some form or fashion. I think I've held every role in a church, and I've held almost every role there is in business. And what I'm finding, D, is the similarities between the two. There's more similarities than there are differences. And when I was able to make that adjustment, also able to make the adjustment when you're talking about how people always try to put you in one or the other. You're a minister, so you can't be in business, or you're in business, so you can't do ministry. I had a bishop tell me this. He said, "Your heart is ministry, but your mind is business."
Hmm.
And what is happening to you is your heart and your brain are fighting. And he told me this specifically. He says, but right now, we know how much you want to help the church. Like, I really want to make sure that the church and Black people as a whole are moving at the same speed as other areas in the country are moving it as well. That like keeps me up at night. I also want to know that if I go and I learn how to do AI and we do this crazy thing over here in business where we're turning out, customer journeys, I can specifically take those same learnings and bring it back and create a congregational journey. When I was able to figure that out, that made sense. Now let me jump halfway spiritual and now bring it back. I know this ain't a spiritual show. So, there is this thing in the kingdom where we talk about these mountains. There's the mountain of ministry. There's the mountain of ministry, the mountain of marketplace. There's the mountain of music and mountain of entertainment. When I tried to live on each one of those individual mountains, I was depressed because I kept feeling, well, I want to play jazz or I'm going to play this. Like I spent all these years learning how to do these jazz chords, and now you tell me I can't play that in a church setting. Or I learned how to take the ability to work a crowd. That doesn't sound real ministerial, but you as a musician in a church, how to really feel the stage. Now
Right.
you don't, why can't I take that over to something else I'm doing?
Okay.
And what I realized, and again, this is still new revelation of how I'm able to put this together, is that I'm not supposed to be on the mountain. I'm supposed to be the bridge, which goes back to the beginning of how we started this conversation. My literal job as strategy is to build infrastructure between different mountains from one place to the next. That's all I do is I come and fix. So if you are a church, I'm going to show you how to build a social enterprise so that the social enterprise pays for what the ministry work of your church is going to do. If I am in a business, I'm going to show the business how to create a nonprofit that still does good in the community, and they both exist without you getting in trouble. You should want to make money not only to feed yourself, but how do you feed the people around you? But even further than that, how do you feed generations upon generations upon generations? And now that I'm starting to be on the eve of my life, I'm not all the way there yet. I'm kind of in the good afternoon section. I have 5 kids. I have 5 boys, not boys. I have 5 sons. I have 5 men who now have children.
Okay.
I literally have to be thinking about what is the legacy I'm going to leave for them, but also what is the legacy I'm going to leave in this world. You can hate Rockefellers and all that other kind of stuff, but when you go back and look, we ain't got many people who look like us that got their names on hospitals or got their names on
Sure. That's true.
trust funds and stuff
Okay.
that fund libraries across the country. And we are in I hate to get preachy, but like we are in a section of time in America where what is our legacy? They're trying to, we're being erased from history books that are digital. So what are we putting down on paper?
Are you
How
referring to Black people?
what is the recipe? What is grandma's recipe? I'm now an elder in my family. I'm literally almost a patriarch. There's my father. He's 80. He just turned 84. He just turned 84. My stepfather died 6 months ago. Who's the man in the house? In the family. Now it's me. So I got to figure out now, how do I create this 4 generations down?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Nah, no, 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 no. I mean, I'm just curious. When you say they're erasing our history, are you referring to Americans in general, or are you referring to Black people? I just for that piece of clarity. I know it's a sidebar, but I was curious.
Say it again.
Um, when you say they are erasing our history,
I'm talking about Black Americans.
okay. I just
I'm literally talking about Black Americans. I'm talking about anyone who is not necessarily in what the societal norm, and I even use that uh, with quotes, like what is
basically
the
the people.
societal norm. But the fact, I wrote an article last night, and I'll get in trouble for it. I don't care. I wrote an article last night where we looked at the two past press, or the two past press secretaries, or the one that's now and the one that just left with the Biden administration, and out overlooking even just politics of the matter. When you look at the credentials of one versus the credentials of the other, they're apples and oranges, but yet one is considered a DEI hire and the other one isn't. And that literally is because the one that's considered a DEI hire doesn't fit the societal norm of what they figure people in power should look or act like.
She's
What
black.
I came from was just, here are these two or three things on the list. And
Yep.
if you the more boxes that you check on this outside of what we consider to be the norm, we're going to consider you to not be as qualified for anything that you do.
Right.
But you're talking 2 or 3 degrees, 25 years of experience in politics versus someone who is only 6 years out of college. I mean, I'm not denigrating either one. I'm just literally, again, I'm at times I'm apolitical because I'm an analyst at the end of the day. Like, what is the data? Show me the data. The data says this. So why are you not agreeing with the data? The data says it. Like, the numbers are here. Because at the end of the day, business is not you can't have emotions in business. And I get kicked back on that as well. But I need to make my decisions first based off the numbers, and then you bring your gut into it. I'm not making decisions just because I feel my gut feels a certain way. So when I say people, we're being erased. I feel that, and I'm not. If that's what they want to do, more power to you. Like, that ain't my fight. My fight is, am I building in such a way that I can create my own library? Whenever you do strategy, let's bring it back to business, but we'll keep it social. Whenever you're creating strategy, there is must do's, or there's things that you're trying to solve for that need to be solved for today.
Mhm.
There's also mid-range goals that you're looking to work towards. And then you have your long-range goals. And some of that is, what happens if we're successful? Do I even have the capacity to handle the success once I get there? I've seen more businesses fail because the success hit too fast and didn't have anything in place.
Right.
So when you're building, there's going to be growth, then there's going to be revenue, then there's going to be profit that happens. A lot of people think that scaling is just growing a big business. Scaling is cutting down expenses, but while you also grow revenue. Media companies, which is the main thing that I'm into right now, I'm in a growth phase. I'm in an absolute growth phase on every media company that I'm operating in. Now, growth does not equal money. So what I have to do is I have to now create a revenue generator that can get me through the immediate point that now allows me to handle the other stuff. And I say that to say that even while we're walking through this fight of this regime that's in place or what have you, we have to look at how can we fight something immediately, what our mid-range goals are going to be, and do we have the level to handle what happens when we succeed. I think we can run back and forth. I think there are going to be people. I think this is the start of a multiplicity of conversations on what all of those stages might look like. So just to bring this home for you, when you're talking about how do I make people think big, be bigger, do bigger things, how do I create strategies, or how I deal with finding out clarity with people, it usually boils down to this. What is your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? What really is the motivating factor underneath what you're doing? Because oftentimes what you tell me and what is pushing you are two different things. My superpower in these big meetings that I'm in, between Forbes and all this stuff, in rooms that I know I'm not quote unquote qualified to be in, is my ability to read what's happening in the room. This is why they're doing what they're doing. And then the second part of that, D, is what is the win? What is the WIN? How do you know that when you achieve whatever that is, that you've won? And oftentimes the hidden agendas in strategy and the hidden agendas in negotiation boils down on those two things. When, what is their win, and what is their why? And if you talk to my business partner, Attorney Walker, He'll tell you that many times we're in a meeting and we're negotiating like a record contract or something, and it's like, well, we'll give him $2 or $3 million. And I'll walk out the meeting and say, that guy wants a car. He wants a car because he didn't have a car as a kid, and he really wants to drive through the neighborhood and say, look at me, I achieved, so that his mama can say you did something good because she didn't have a car. That's his win, and that's his why. And if you're spending all your time trying to solve something over here, just give them what they want. And for many people, that's where the clarity comes in. If I can identify your win and your why, we're golden.
Okay. And so we're coming to the close, but I do have to ask you about your book, Birdology. What is the core message behind your book, Birdology?
Well, so my newest book is called Biology, and the book
Ooh,
before that
okay.
is Birdology. Birdology, twofold, and you're going to find this funny. I suffer with perfectionism. I literally suffer from making everything perfect, and this undercurrent thing that everything I do has to be this huge, big, huge launch, and everything has to be spectacular. When I wrote Birdology, it literally was just my blog posts. It's thoughts that come out of my mind, and I wrote them down and put them out. Um, so Birdology, that as a book form, is just really just the basic thoughts of how I'm thinking. As I've moved forward in life, I've come to a point now where I'm able to really articulate what is birdology. Birdology as a concept is the methods, the structures, and the processes that I use to grow business and life. Birdism is my thought processes of how I think. This is my gut. This is my mission statements and things of that nature. So my new podcast, Birdisms, are really that. Here's how I think. This is how I'm really approaching this in business. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. When I talk about birdology, I call it this is the science of how I've lived my life. This is the science. You're not going to find this in a history book. You're not going to find this in a class. This is just how I took a business from $5 to 500 million. Like these are the
Hmm.
steps I took. That's my process. That's my framework. So
Right.
birdology as a concept. My new book, Beology, comes from a conversation I had with a bishop who said that we are good at being human doers and not being human beings. Like there is a level of just being in the moment, fully understanding as much as you can who you are, why you're doing, again, why you're doing what you're doing, and what your win is. Biology, the science of being, is really about that. How do I pause long enough to be in this particular moment? Like, how do I turn the phone off and sit with my kids? How do I sit with my grandkids? And how that and rest are just as important as doing the other stuff. So that
Okay. And oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to
no, no,
interrupt your thought. Go ahead.
that literally is. So the books for me
Okay.
are about finally getting to a point where I can release what I've been holding up. Again, what happens? I'm writing a book now, and a part of that is called, How to Kill Your Inner Judas. What happens
Hmm.
what happens when the actual betrayer in your life is you?
Ooh,
And you keep
that's deep.
betraying yourself, you keep betraying your dreams, you keep betraying what your destiny is, because every time you get to a certain point, you self-sabotage. Biology is the first part of that walk. Now we can talk about how do we just release stuff, and even if it's not perfect, your voice is needed in the land. Your voice is there, and you're at home trying to create 17 different podcasts with 17 different best graphics and 17 of the best intros. And at the end of the day, someone who doesn't have anywhere near what you have has has kidnapped the narrative of the nation because you're trying to be perfect and won't release. So that's my
Hmm.
movement.
Okay. And finally, what advice do you have for someone who feels they're built for more but unsure of where to start?
Just that. Do it imperfect. Do it imperfect.
Okay.
Someone asked me yesterday, a young lady, she's I think 25, asked me, call me, text me out of nowhere. She called me first, and I was like, girl, don't call me at 8 o'clock in the morning. So she texted me and was like, if somebody walked up to you and put a microphone in your face and asked you for advice, what would you say? And I said this: I would risk more earlier. I would fail faster. I would take more risks. I think even though I have achieved a level of success, when you look at me and even some of the people I've worked with or work with, they've actually taken some more risks, and therefore they've had better results even doing the same thing. I am so calculated and such an overthink of everything that there are many times I don't release, or from a fear factor, I wait long enough for the idea to be given to someone else. It is so easy for
Okay.
me to have an idea and give it to someone else and let them do it than it is for me to do. And now at 53, if I live like the Bible says to at least 70, I only have a certain number of years, 17 years or so, to try to achieve whatever it was I was supposed to achieve, and I could have achieved at 20 or 25 or 26. But fail fast, fail fast. If you look at, I even almost hate to say his name on here, but you look at what Elon Musk and is doing with Doge and even what he did with X. It literally is break it fast. And by the time by the time someone else perfects what they're doing, you've learned how to break it 6 times and come up with 7 or 8 different ways to do it. You're always ahead of them. So my advice to everyone who's feeling stuck or feeling like they need clarity or anything else, don't be afraid, especially earlier in your life, to break it fast, fail fast. Failing is stress testing. I now know what not to do.
How can people get in touch with you, follow your work, or bring you in to speak or
Uh,
consult?
my website is jrichardbyrd.com. That's usually the fastest way to find wherever I'm located. We're in the middle of changing some of my social handles, but Instagram, you can get me at Birdology. Everywhere else, you can get me at Richard Byrd. I'm fine. You just Google me, you'll find me. Uh, Google me, you'll find me. But yeah, J. Richard Byrd is going to be the hub of what I do, and from there you can find me in
Okay.
the right place.
Okay. And that was James Byrd, leader who operates at the intersection of purpose, precision, possibility. To learn more, visit jrichardbyrd.com or connect with him on Facebook. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate it, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And until next time, keep building boldly, thinking clearly, and leading with integrity. If you can't do all that, go on back and buy Biology or Birdology. It'll get you there. Mr. Byrd, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, sir.